Hi, friends. Welcome to Talking with Famous People. My name's host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People. The internet television program that makes you into a kitty pageant winner. I love amazing facts. I've got a fact about love for you. Love is a mini splendored thing. Like the love I have for my kitty. Hello. Oh, what a wonderful kitty friend. Ozymandias Conjecture. I like to use the word conjecture here just because it makes it sound mathy, you know. Well, I don't watch other ENTPs. That's because we each have our own niche of the role we'd like to fill in society or a group or whatever. And we don't typically like to watch our own types because they are filling the niche we'd like to fill. For example, I discovered this when I showed Cameron some videos of Les Stroud, the Survivor Man, who's an ISTJ, and I like to watch it. I like to watch Les Stroud do cool ISTJ stuff, you know, kind of shit that I can't really do very well. But Cameron didn't like it. Cameron immediately got kind of like competitive hatery with it. I think that's what we all do if we watch our own type. We get kind of competitive and hatery about it because we see somebody else who's trying to be us. God damn it. Hey, that's my niche. You get out of my niche, mister. I'm going to repeat as an approach to a live stream what I did last night, which is the caption contest. I enjoyed that. I think that's fun. But next time I do the caption contest, I'm going to set it up a little bit better ahead of time. So I'll have like 4 pictures and like maybe a page set up somewhere where you can see all 4 pictures side by side and offer your captions and stuff. I bet if we were to, oh kitty, oh wonderful kitty, oh glorious feline friend, yes, your daddy loves you so much. He values and appreciates you. He understands your worth. Kitty, I am not one to deny your worth, okay? There's nothing wrong with you. There's everything right with you. You're a cat who brings light to the people. Without you, we would all be in a land of kitty darkness. Isn't that true? Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Oh, who's on the TV? That's you. That's who's on the TV. It's Kitty Kitty Meow Meow Pants. El Nino, my ass. You call those storms? Where is the rain? Of course, Kitty loves to have the door open so that she can go in and out as she sees fit at any given moment. But right now is a really bad time to have the door open. Why? Because the sun comes right through there and lands on me right here. Eric, if you would be given the choice to have a personality type, what would you choose? Maybe INFP. I figure INFP would be familiar enough to me with the extroverted intuition that it wouldn't be a complete culture shock to my entity. It would give me access to the FI that I currently don't have access to, but I'd still retain pretty strong TI in the 8th slot. Now, I'd have to sacrifice, of course, the ability to do anything, but who really needs to do shit anyway? Doing's way overrated. Talking, not overrated. I mean, I'd rather be an INFP than an INTP, for sure. Because INTP has, it's like they have, well, INTP is just like they maximize the processing vector of ENTP, but they lose the action part. So it's like I'd rather be an INFP than an INTP, because an INTP is basically just a smarter, less useful ENTP. So it's like I'd rather be less smart and more useful. But INFP, I feel like they have some secret wisdom that I don't have, you know? They are my supervisor types. So it's like, I think it's kind of natural to want to be your supervisor type, maybe. You know, of course, INTJ Elijah says, Christ, if I could be an ENTJ, could do some of the same things I do now, but actually make money off of them. That's true. But then you wouldn't have any sense of self. You'd just be a slave to work all the time. Love amazing facts. Were you here the other day for my explanation about friend zoning and INFPs? Because I had a conversation with an INFP on the phone who actually wanted some life coaching, so to speak, or just somebody to talk to, you know, somebody to talk out a problem he's having. And it related to that being friend zoned. So here's my explanation as to why INFPs get friend zoned and how they would not have that happen if they were to successfully avoid it. Number one, the reason INFPs get friend zoned is because they value the other person too much. They value the other person's authentic person too much. They don't want to reduce that person to an object of sexual desire. But here's the problem. If you're a male, INFP chicks don't have any problem getting laid. The INFP chicks have a problem staying faithful. Anyway, but what it boils down to is that you have to recognize that there are, in fact, a few universal rules when it comes to heterosexual dating, or universal enough, okay? Number one, the chick will never know, as well as you, what she wants. This is the first mistake I always made. I haven't gotten to the title idea yet. The Ozymandias Conjecture. girls will never know as well as you what they want. They're waiting to see. They're waiting for you to go pursue them and then make the determination accordingly. It's up to you to determine how they view you. And so if you don't display sexual appetite for them, they will follow your lead. They will understand that that's not your relationship. The other piece of advice I have for INFPs is that COVID gives intuitives a huge leg up when it comes to dating. Video conference getting chicks is way better than any other way of doing it. And I that's become a popular phrase of mine now. When I want to really condemn something, I stole it from The Simpsons, by the way, that demean us all. So the demean is because in the episode of The Simpsons, after ruining his brother's business, I think it is his brother, Homer invites him to live in the home with them because he's destroyed his life or whatever. And then the brother, who's an inventor, invents a baby translator. And they go to the mall to test it out. And people are walking around. People are walking around and they're like, they go up to the babies that say things, goo goo gaga or whatever. And one of the babies is on a leash. You know how people put their babies on a leash? And the baby translator says, and the baby goes, goo goo gaga. And the translator says, this leash demeans us both. So that's where I got that from. But I thought that's the best way to put it, right? There's no other. If I wanted to convey to people what I hate about masks and why we should just fucking throw this mask nonsense away and just let this shit run its course and stop trying to control everything all the time. My approach would be, I'd like to get a shirt that I have on whenever I'm wearing a mask that says, these masks demean us all. It's like, could you really convey what you're saying any better? Because it's not like people can go, hold on a second. Hold on a second. He's not saying masks don't help. He's not saying masks might not help or whatever. He's saying this is really demeaning. and that's a much more powerful argument. Because people, that's an argument people can't really argue against. Yeah, it is kind of demeaning. Even if I'm supporting it completely, yeah, it is kind of demeaning. So I like that. I think that's a powerful phrase. So Ozymandias Conjecture. First of all, the reason I use the word conjecture is because I like the idea of making something sound like a math thing by calling it a conjecture. Because, in math, there's conjectures and then there's there's the next level up from conjectures that's more serious or whatever. Okay, so let me finish the second part of the INFP thing before I get back to the Ozymandias Conjecture. So look, this is the thing. Love amazing facts. You don't need to use your extroverted intuition tool function to solve this problem. You can use your fourth slot TE and go in with a plan. And here's your plan. You find a girl you want to talk to on video conference. Then you have a conversation on video conference. Then you have a second conversation on video conference. In the second conversation on video conference, you should try to be flirty a little bit, at least. So, like, refer to body stuff and, like, sort of gentle references to sexuality, style stuff without actually being like, nice tits, And then in the third conversation, not before and not after, during the third conversation, you say, hey, can I see your boobs? And then that ends the chance of friend zoning. Okay? It's like at that point they have a choice. You're forcing them to commit because you're conveying to them clearly at that point, I know what I want. And then they can either say no or yes. That's fine. Either way. And then you just, if they're not down, you go, okay, cool. Well, I'm just gonna wrap up this conversation now and talk to you later. And see you later, bitch. It's like you just gotta. You got a lot of FI up front that makes you care about this person who just turned you down. Ask Gas or Grass, No One Rides for Free is an ESTP. It's an ESTP motto that we could all apply a little bit more into our lives. No, it's not. It's not difficult to ask. It may be difficult to get an affirmative reply, but it's definitely not difficult to ask. This is how you do it. Hey, can I see your boobs? Just that easy. It's really just that easy. And then, she might even say no, but how she says no is going to make a big difference. I get maybe you're in a more conservative country. So maybe my 3 rule plays out a little differently. The third time you say, show me your boobs, maybe she goes like, no, I can't show them to you yet, but I do like you a lot. Well, then you're still fine. You're still fine. She's just being a little slower, and you gotta treat her like a squirrel you're trying to feed. You're just sitting there putting out some things in front of her. And she comes over and eats it. You don't even bother. You're just like, I like the way you eat those nuts, squirrels, but you don't even bother trying to touch it. And here's another piece of information. When you're with her, let's say you're at the beach, okay, and you go to the beach. Oh, I'm so glad that we decided to take a walk on the beach together. Love amazing facts. You are so sensitive and really seem to understand me. And you go, okay, let's look at the sunset. You stand there. And let's look at the sunset. You wait for her to take a place to stand, okay? And then you go and you stand very close to her, but don't touch her. All right, this is the key thing. So unusually close, but not touching. The next thing to do is to make a joke of some sort. It doesn't have to be a good joke. Not terrible, ideally. Just anything that somebody might reasonably laugh at. And then what's going to happen is this. So you made a joke. Oh, that sunset reminds me of the old movie Sunset Boulevard. Not even a joke, right? Here's what's going to happen. Girly poo is going to go like this. Oh, love amazing facts. You're so funny. Now she's initiated physical contact. Now you're in like Flynn, okay? Once she initiates physical contact, then you put your arm around her, something like that. This is so nice. Looking at this sunset. And then before you know it, you're like, oh, you got a little bit of sand right here on your chest. And you brush off the sand from her breast. There, that's better. Oh, a little sand on this one too. I better check to see if any sand got inside the bra. Before you know it, remember, the thing is, yeah, I know, man, there's sand all over you. Yeah, time to check the booty for sand. You know what? We really shouldn't check for sand here where there is so much sand. Why don't we go back to my room? I'll check for sand there. Don't listen to Running Fox. Do not listen to Running Fox. The things that girls say they want are the opposite of what gets you in their pants. Okay? Girls don't know what they want. Yeah. Look, you just need to be the one who's leading the dance. And the thing is, it's difficult for an INFP because you're an FI Dom. And what I'm saying is that means putting yourself in the other person's shoes a bit. Yes, it's an interesting calculus, but that's not really the way it plays out as INFP, ISFP. It doesn't play out as I want what I want and that's it. It plays out as putting yourself in another person's shoes. So it's like, here's one way in which my softness runs afoul of the sort of distilled version of heterosexuality. So when I'm having sexual intercourse with Rachel, it always seems like while I'm having sexual intercourse, a good idea to endow her face with my man seed, at the end. But then every time I pull out at the end, when it's actually time to do that, I don't actually do it, right? Because if I were to actually do it, then as soon as I was done, I'd be like, all gaggy because it's so gross. So the thing is, love amazing facts. The key point of that is it's fine to be a nice guy. But that really plays out as like realizing that you don't really want to come on her face. It just seems like a good idea. But it's okay to want to at the time. You know what I'm saying? How did I court Rachel? Exactly like how I just described. Well, one day she was in here first of all, I looked around at people in the channel that might be possible dating options for me, because my previous time I had tried dating locally because I thought that would be smarter to date locally. So I went to OkCupid and I had a terrible relationship with an ISFJ, and then I had attempted getting things started with this ENTJ lady, and that didn't play out. But you know what? I only wasted 3 dates on her, because at the end of the third date, I was like, okay, this is time for me to fuck you now. and she wasn't having it. So I was like, okay, well, see you later. Well, don't be a bad guy. The thing is, yeah, it's what Evelyn says. The difference between being a nice guy and a pushover guy. So I actually discovered Rachel. I looked at her, the prospect, and then I dismissed her because I saw her video and she looked like she was 25 years old. And I had already determined that I wasn't going to date anybody under 30 because of the FE reasons mostly. Like I didn't want to be susceptible to robbing the cradle attacks. It's like that's one difference between ESTP and ENTP. ESTP, 49-year-old dating a 22-year-old, thanks. That makes them look good. ENTP, 48-year-old dating a 22-year-old, realizes it's not worth the FE burden. I don't want to. I don't want them. Yeah, that man. So spoken like a true ESTP, MC McPhee. The thing is, so anyway, I dismissed her as a possibility because I thought she was too young. And then she paid me to type her, and I'm quite confident that she had intuited that I thought she was too young, and she made it a point of telling me during the session that she was 34 at the time. And I heard it. It sort of took a second to register, though. So I tried to get with this other chick first. I tried the same approach with the 3 conversations, show me your boobs. But at the end of the 3rd conversation, after she showed me her boobs, and after we had decided, yes, that she was going to come fly out here and spend a week with me, I reciprocated by showing her my stuff. And I guess I was supposed to wait to be invited, or something, but she freaked out and banned me on Facebook all of a sudden. I was just like, okay, it's a little bit of an overreaction. And well, but don't get this though, Freddie Forgiato. Maybe it is a Berkey move, but get this. So then I talked to Rachel. Same process. The 3rd thing, show me your boobs. And then she did, and I didn't. I didn't this time. I learned from my mistake, right? And guess what? Hey, that's not fair. I showed you mine. Aren't you going to show me yours? What's going on? What the hell? That's what I get. So, yeah, you lose it. You're damned if you do. You're damned if you don't. If you don't, But do you see what happened to me? I got busted either way. I do believe Rachel's madly in love with me. And I value that more than anything in the world because, there's a song I made at a certain point. I mean, okay, because that is not the very first time I've done this thing too either. Because there's this other chick, Cooter, back before Kimberly, where I had the same experiences with Kimberly, where it's like, show me your boobs. She did. I didn't whip it out, and she got upset at me for not reciprocating. So I don't know what the rule is there. Yes, this is all a true story. All right, I don't tell fake stories unless I'm joking. Have I ever serenaded Rachel? Yes, MC McPhee, but listen, I'm very smart about it. So in other words, I'm super conscious of how the woman is reacting and stuff. And the last thing I would want to do is to fit into some meme of ridiculousness. I would hate to be an example of that guy who I go, oh my God, this fucking guy with his earnest love songs is about to make me puke all over his face. So, I'm not claiming, like, remember, I am not the most experienced dater in the world. I am not particularly experienced with women. I had a girlfriend in high school. Then I had a first wife, basically fell straight into a second wife with just maybe a fling in between. And that lasted for 14 years. And then I came out of that and I hooked up with one lady from the channel who lived in Tennessee named Cooter. And unfortunately, she was married and I shouldn't have done that. And I didn't, I regret it. Well, if I meet him around here, we're already talking about it. But like Rachel and I talk about it fairly frequently, I guess. It comes up a lot. It's hard not to include it in conversations when it's the most effective way to express certain things. It's like, if I want to tell you about how a person's behavior, how they were acting, what I think their motivations were, etc., it's very difficult for me to do it more effectively than I can via the frame of cognitive functions. Well, look, Rennie Fox, when I did that, when I flew out to Tennessee and slept with that married woman, first of all, I hadn't yet. I just came out of my marriage to Candace, and as far as I knew, I was the same guy I'd always been, which is girls don't like me. I don't know how to talk to girls, and I'm best off just being sort of professionally asexual all the time. So at least I can hang out with them because I like women, but they don't seem to think about me that way. That was where I was mentally, because that's where I had been mentally when I got into the marriage. However, there was no significant difference, just this minor thing that now I had a YouTube channel. Well, this lady in Tennessee who I went out there and slept with, she had to like smash me over the head with it. I mean, I literally wouldn't believe her until she said explicitly, yes, I am saying I want to sleep with you. Because she was a very conventionally attractive woman, blonde, blue eyes, boom, just like natural boom, She was 37, I think, but I shit you not, she looked like she was 25. And she already had 3 kids too. So, okay, well, horse bumper, I don't need to worry about that anymore because I'm not going to have to date anymore. I found my woman. The thing is this. I might agree with you, Horse Mumbler, except for the reality that I experienced. I had two different people bust my chops for not reciprocating right away. And one person bust my chops for reciprocating right away. So it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know? Yeah, Rachel's my soulmate. I think my soulmate, I kind of don't really love the term because everybody I've ever heard use it is divorced like the next day. I've been to weddings where you see people go, Julie, you are not only my lover, my best friend, you are my soulmate. That marriage is not lasting. Guarantee you. Those people are making decisions with their feelings. Married was fine. I had no, it's the thing is, to me, being married and not being married is no different. It's like they're the same thing. How am I not married now? This relationship is so dramatically, strikingly different than any other relationship I've been in before that I'd have to be brain dead not to notice it. So yesterday, for the first time in about 6 months, Rachel had a bit of a bad day, bad evening. Okay. But why did she have a bad evening? Because her medication came in 3 days ago. She told me we need to go pick it up. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. She told me we need to go pick it up. I said, okay, yeah, we'll do that. And so she ended up having to miss a day on one of her pills, because I didn't take it seriously enough to make sure we got down there and got it, even though I know how serious it is. And then not last night, but the night before, she didn't sleep well because she only had one of her pills you're supposed to take at night. And then it's not just the one she wasn't taking is not just a sleeping pill. It's the one that goes together with the Prozac that makes everything go pop and she's fine. And so she missed one day on that. And last night, you could just see her unraveling. It was like, oh, damn, she really needs these pills. But we went down there, we got them. She kind of freaked out at the fact that it wasn't ready when we went to go pick it up, because the CVS wanted to inform her first that she doesn't have any insurance. But we've never had any insurance. But the difference is, I guess they stopped covering her kind of insurance, so they felt like we might have had insurance or something. I don't know. It's the same price as it always was. But that very much bothered Rachel because we have a lot of problems with the CVS. Like, half time I go to pick up my meds, they have to order them. They're always, shit like this happens all the time with CVS. But normally, it's the sort of thing Rachel and I take easy in stride. No big deal. But it's just not last night. And then when we were eating tacos and stuff, she was reacting in ways that were disproportionately large to the stimuli. So if I expressed like, ouch, I banged my elbow here, it would be like, oh, are you okay? And if I made a reasonably funny joke, it would be, okay, this is not, I remember this. I remember this. This was a thing I didn't like from 6 months ago. Rachel, did you have to skip meds because I didn't take you here soon enough? Yeah. Fucking Eric. It puts her in an awful situation because, of course, she doesn't want to have to do the FE thing where, hey, Eric, we really need to go get my meds. And then, fine. And then I take her down there and then, and she's like, okay, cool, Horse Mumbler. I agree. I agree with Horse Mumbler's assessment of this, that my experiential conclusions had insufficient data to draw the bigger picture truth here. You could tell. Yeah, I think she may have missed 2 days of it. I'm not sure, but it was the Ozymandias Conjecture, or whatever it's called. That Prexit. So, she went. I mean, as soon as we got home, she took it. You could see it working pretty quickly. She started, she took it, and when she took it, she was like, I was like, I'm feeling like live stream. Yeah, I want a live stream. And then by the end of the live stream, she was like, more just Rachel. And she took her Klonopin and was out to bed. But the Klonopin is not enough. The Klonopin helps her to sleep, so she doesn't have insomnia. And my initial wrong intuition on the matter was, I bet this is nothing more than Rachel just needs a good night's sleep every night. And she needs Ambien or a sleeping pill or something. And that would solve this fucking problem. And these people are meh. I was wrong. I was totally wrong. She needs 2 things. She needs something to make her sleep every night, all night. And she needs drugs that specifically treat bipolar. And fortunately, manic bipolar. It's not that long ago that they realized that there really is a magic bullet for this, and it's this specific combination of Zyprexa and Prozac. It's like neither one of them does it independently. You put them both together, and it's night and day. So, she's trying to apologize to me last night and being bad and shit. And I just, I did the best I could to explain to her, Rachel, I am the one who's the problem here. This is too important for me to shine on as I did and put you in a difficult situation having to repeatedly ask me to do something. And then, it's like at the end of the evening, she says, thank you for paying for my meds. We are a family, Rachel and I. We are a unit. I did not pay for her meds. We paid for her meds. Doesn't matter. It's like we are one team. So I hate the fact that I put her in that position. And it's not, I'm not upset at her at all. I'm upset at me. But I guarantee you this, that won't happen again. That's a mistake I'll learn from. I took a Klonopin. The thing is, we have plenty of Klonopin, which is kind of nice, because she's prescribed 1 per day, because she should take 1 when she needs to take 1 and half when she feels like she needs to take half. But most days she just takes a half. So even though I periodically will take a half, but I'm careful not to take it any more frequently than once every 3 or 4 or 5 days, because I don't want to get any kind of addiction to it. I definitely don't want to get hooked on benzos. Fuck that noise. So I don't have, there's nothing fiending about Clonny, right? It's not the sort of thing that one could possibly, I think, fiend for. So you don't get addicted to Klonopin because you like it so much. You get addicted to Klonopin because you get addicted to good night sleeps. And then all of a sudden, you're dependent on benzos. But from what I understand, kicking benzos is a nightmare if you get addicted to them, if you get physically addicted. In fact, when I was first talking with a psychiatrist, one of the things I said to him was, now look, I don't want to put her on benzos if we can avoid it, because I've heard that it's an absolute nightmare to kick them if you ever have to kick them. And the doctor ended up, so I was saying, like, why don't we just give her a sleeping pill like Ambien or something? And he said, this will make her sleep better. And I'm like, okay, fine, benzos it is, whatever. And the thing is also, in the first meeting with the psychiatrist, I kind of took him behind the woodshed. Like, I asked him a bunch of questions he couldn't answer, and questioned the validity of his conclusions based on whether they're based on premises that have been adequately established. He tried to cite a particular study, and I pointed out, for that study to be meaningful in this context, the control group would have to man. We both know it didn't do that. And he just sort of hung his head. But this guy is my absolute fucking hero, because the last time we had our session, which was recently, I could not even get through my little thing I needed to tell him, which is basically, you saved us. Rachel had 10 years of professionals in your field working with her. And the power of one professional doing their job right. It's like, I had 6 months with Rachel that were chaotic and difficult. And then boom, everything's perfect. It's like, Rachel and I would not have been together much longer if we hadn't fixed it when we did. And the beautiful thing about everything about this is how it wins all the arguments that she was having. It totally defeats all the people who were, with their possibly good intentions, I guess, let's give them the benefit of the doubt for good intentions, all the people with their good intentions who were oppressing her and insisting that their perspectives were right, have zero ground to stand on anymore. They are all proven in one fell swoop completely wrong, and the way that they were wrong looks really, really bad in retrospect now. I mean, it's one of the most sweeping metaphysical events in a single person's life in the history of the world. Rachel went from 10 years of being oppressed about smoking pot and basically being told that was the problem, to being cured and smoking pot all the time. So I believe this Friday, we have a video conference for Anthony's birthday. Anthony's the brother who insisted on kicking out Rachel right now from the house and refused to have a conversation with me to talk about the transition back over to here again, which we were planning to do, but he wouldn't work with me in terms of timetable. In fact, he wouldn't speak with me at all. Well, this is the thing, Freddie Porgiato. I'm just in patient hunter mode. I'm sitting in a good spot. We'll see what walks by. I like to use my opponent's energy Aikido style. Your his rotated? What's your hip rotated 80 degrees? Okay. I'm gonna pass on the whole childbirth thing. Your hip rotated 80 degrees? Oh, fuck no. You women can keep childbirth. No, thank you. So yeah, Freddie Forgiato. I'm waiting for somebody to make a mistake. I like to always be able to return to, well, you're the one who said meow. So that I can't be, so they can't turn, why are you being so meow? Right? I don't like that question. Why are you being so meow? I avoid it by letting them set the table for me. Then I sit down and eat. And until they set the table, I'm super nice. Of course, the nice thing is this. Let's say I'm super nice and they don't make any mistakes. Well, it will be because they are tiptoeing the whole time, because it's inconsistent with the way they've treated her for the last 10 years. So if I make them constantly walk on eggshells, that's fine. That's fair enough. If they crunch some of those eggshells, whoopah! You know, I can guarantee you this, none of them will ever bring up the subject of marijuana. And like last time we had a video conference, we were casually talking about whatever. I said, well, you know, Rachel and I, this was the third home. Rachel and I don't really go very many places. You know, we go to the store, the weed store, we go get fast food, and really that's about it. Yeah, I'll definitely pull a bong rip at some point during it, for sure. That's for sure. That's just me being me, and I can watch them all go. I might also make a comment like, how are you doing, Rachel? I'm doing great and feel so good. You know, it's like, I got the med drive, or whatever she says about it. They probably wouldn't even mention any of that shit because she's much more cautious around them. And I'll say, well, you know, we got to take care of our health. I make sure Rachel smokes plenty of weed, and that helps a lot. And let them try to disagree with me. I dare you, motherfucker. Yeah, we go to the weed store. We just went back to our old weed store. For a while, we went to a weed store that was further away because they had particularly good prices, called the Herbarium. So we used to go to this place, the Herbarium. But it's all the way. No, I tend to get indicas. It's all the way in West Hollywood. It's right on the edge at West Hollywood, very near the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. That's why we took that video. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Rich and I had a tourism video, I guess you call it, where we went to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. It's kind of a good video, I think. Doesn't get many views, so might as well pimp it a bit on the live stream. None of my nice, pleasant videos seem to get any views. What I mean by nice, pleasant, like little outing videos, they're just not popular, but they're well liked. The thing is, the people who do watch them, I get a lot of warmth from those, but I don't get a lot of views on them. Hybrids or indicas? I actually prefer hybrids in general. Straight indicas can be a little headachy. So, I mean, the thing is, I don't want to blow it right into the camera. I want to do it super casually, you know? If anything, like politely blow it away from the camera while talking, not breaking my sentence. So, like, Rachel's saying something. I pull the ball, get into my lungs, and now it's my time to chime in. Well, that's really great what you just said right there because blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I love that too. That's so wonderful to hear. Right? Everything I'm saying, all my tone and everything says nothing unusual going on here. But while I'm speaking, all the smoke is slowly coming out of my mouth. Am I familiar with a transvestigation channel called the Trans Files? No. Would I trust a doctor who smoked weed regularly? Yes, more so than a doctor who didn't, probably. After all, it can't be more difficult than philosophy, and I trust a philosopher who smokes weed all the time, namely myself. If it were up to me, pilots would be required to smoke weed before they start flying the plane. But they have to be heads, I'm not lying. I mean, look, the basic premise that you're saying here, smooth like shark dick, is that when a person smokes marijuana, they are less competent than when they don't. Okay? That's fundamentally underlying your claim. Marijuana is not an intoxicant in the same way that alcohol is. Not anything like that at all. And for people who smoke weed on the regular, like me, it doesn't intoxicate you. It doesn't even sort of cloud you or make you like unclear, like it might if you don't regularly smoke it. Instead, it establishes kind of a new steadier norm than would otherwise be without the marijuana. Some of us are steadied by it, not intoxicated by it. So, if the underlying premise of your position were accurate, I would now be less competent or less able to explain myself than I was prior to smoking that bong rip. But it simply isn't the case. So the nice thing is we have lots of actual empirical data. Everybody who's been around this channel has more empirical data than they know what to do with. They see me pull bong rips all the time, and they see that, in fact, it does not reduce my competency level. I pull bong rips at work all the time. So I pull bong rips when I'm typing people. I pull bong rips when I'm teaching my kids, my students. I just go like this. If I'm on camera, I just turn the camera off for a second. It's a part of my life. And that's the key thing. You have to remember that every individual has their own relationship with drugs and alcohol. And that only some drugs and alcohol are actually performance reducing. Alcohol is very performance reducing. So do I want my brain surgeon having a martini before doing brain surgery? Absolutely not. Do I want my brain surgeon drinking a beer? Absolutely not. Do I want him doing downers or heroin? Absolutely not. Do I want him doing a line of meth? Probably wouldn't hurt. He'd be very attentive then. Do I want him smoking a bowl? If that's what he normally does, yes. If that's not what he normally does, no. See what I'm saying? I mean, the Nazis didn't give meth to their soldiers because it made them fight worse. The other thing is, marijuana, in some sense, by itself, does reduce my net effectiveness, but it's because smoking bowls without Adderall means I take a more nap during the day than I otherwise would. So I have a little bit more total time directed towards sleep. Sean O'Neill says, if you smoke weed all the time, it stunts your emotional growth. It may have stunted your uncle's emotional growth. I don't believe it stunted mine. I mean, I think I have a very low emotional growth ceiling anyway. So, like, I doubt I would ever going to get above about 3 years old with my FI. Maybe we stunted it to 2 years old. Yeah, but the point is, there's a kind of argument that's extremely specious, which is, well, you may still seem intelligent enough, Eric, but just think how smart you would have been if you hadn't smoked weed. I mean, we don't know what would have happened if I hadn't smoked weed. Perhaps I would have been less smart. Yeah. So I've talked about this before, Life Syncrotic. I am a big believer in tailoring one's so-called tailoring one's grounding protocols to one's nature and stack. And that when one prescribes grounding protocols as a general thing, then one runs the risk of confusing people. I was confused. When I was in college, I was very attracted to the idea of meditation. And in fact, I did Zen meditation at the Zen temple for quite some time, almost every morning. Tried to do the whole 40 minutes. You want to talk about a challenge. Try to sit still and quiet your monkey mind for 40 minutes. I'm an ENTP. Was it good for me? I mean, did it effectively give me a certain peace? Yes, it did. But I wouldn't say I was any wiser. I would say I was more reflective. Right. There are all different kinds of meditation. And that's where I'm going to with this, which is, in my opinion, the best kind of meditation for an ENTP is not to try to put oneself in a state of NI. My dominant, and that's what Zazen is, okay? Zazen is trying to put yourself in a state of NI, ready to receive, but with no input. So you're just staring at the wall. And it's designed to train you to spend time in a state of NI receive. The fact that you have to sit perfectly still and it's not really comfortable or natural to be that still is a manner of suppressing SI receive, or reducing the impact of SI receive. It's a manner of reducing the impulsivity of SE action and NE action, so that you are, when you do return to the world, you're returning to it with a bolstered receive frame that calms you down. But the receive frame I'd like to bolster instead is SI. So for me, the best kind of meditation is taking a bath and saying, right, and rolling around on the bed and getting comfortable. And when it's chilly out, getting a blanket and going, and being like either a little kid or like my mom always was. I don't know. That's how my mom's always. I learned how to self-care for my mom. And I see how she dealt with attaining that serenity that meditation is designed to attain. And it wasn't through trying to quiet her monkey mind. Zazen meditation is saying to me, try to turn off yourself. You're an extrovert intuitor. Monkey mind is your very nature. I spend all of my time thinking, I wonder, It's not a bad thing to have done. I'm glad I did it. And yet at the same time, implicit in it is a frame, as there is implicit in everything a frame. And that frame is ontologically reductive. It says to me, there is something wrong with you. I don't like that. Whereas my kind of meditation, a nice bath, right, cozy, hot chocolate, coffee, cigarettes, things that make me feel SI like swaddled, that works for me. I like that. Makes me feel good. Makes me feel calm. It makes me feel safe. Part of the problem with spirituality is most people think that's not magical enough to qualify. Well, I don't like your metaphor. Sorry. I like my actual experience. Cool. And when I said I don't like your metaphor, that wasn't directed at you. Okay, sorry. I'm talking to the general imagined meditation advocate. So I really do like SI. And it's one of the ways, I guess, that you could say that I've improved in SI. I have a much more positive impression of it, so to speak. I know that it's the thing that I forget to do, the thing that I ought to do more to balance myself. And whenever I do the SI things, it always does make me feel more balanced. So what does that mean? It means don't go out to eat. Take the time to cook. Slow yourself down. Okay, Eric, now it's time to not do something metaphysical. Clean this floor. It's fucking filthy. You pig. Look at my floor. Look how filthy it is. It's absolutely filthy. Why? Because we sweep, but we never mop. And we spill shit on it all the time. So, what will balance me? To stop doing this, talking to everybody all the time, which is what I want to do. And, those are Charms Pops. Charms Mini Pops. My dad buys them for us. He must get a good deal on them at the swap meet. So, yeah, well, David Grandin, we don't do a bad job of cleaning because we don't know how to clean, or because we aren't set up efficiently enough to regularly clean, or because we lack the tools to clean. We aren't clean enough because we're slobs. We're both slobs. I think people should smoke more Sears sage. What's Sears sage? Is that salvia? Is Sears sage salvia? I didn't like salvia. If that's what you're talking about. Could I hire someone? I can't afford to hire anybody right now. I used to hire people all the time when I had my business to do various things. Like I was talking about the other day in Utah, I didn't pay them like by the hour. I gave them like a stipend each for doing it, but I still had. He didn't smoke enough of it. I'll share an embarrassing salvia story in a second, but I took with you to Utah with me as judges and stuff. Abraham, Kunkel, Delilah, Zachary, Felix, and Justin. I had 6 people with me. Adult, like supervisor adult. They weren't really adults. They're all like, 18, 19. But, like judges and assistant coaches and stuff. So, sort of my embarrassing salvia story. I'd done it a few times, and I always had the same experience with it, which is, it gives me the combination of a nitrous effect, this sort of like wah 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 thing, but with a starkly acid flavor. So it's like taking acid and nitrous together for 1 minute. Lasts for like 1 minute, maybe 2. I don't know. So okay, that's true. That is bad logic. Just because it didn't work for you is not mean we can obviously conclude you need more. What I meant by that is, if there were any doubt as to whether salvia is a real drug or just sort of an urban myth, it's a real drug. It can definitely get you very like dissociative. So one time, however, the various times that I did it, I did too much. I was at my pot dealer's house at the time, because it was before it was legalized. And I always met him in his garage, did the deal, whatever, sat down for a second, pulled the bowl, left. And in this instance, I had just gotten back from getting some salvia. And I know, like, he's my pot dealer. He's not my friend. He's not somebody I know very well, particularly, except I always go get pot from him. And we always pull a bowl together, and chat about our mutual friend Al Areno briefly. But he's not, he's no more than a instrumental person in my life. So I smoked this salvia, blackout. I don't remember any of this. Apparently, I walked into his house, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I walked into his kitchen, and he like sort of said, "No, out here." And then I was like back in the garage. I was like, "What happened?" So yeah, what I'm saying is, it is conceivable, unless you have some sort of immunity to it, that it can get you very, very dissociative, so much so that you do stuff for 5 minutes or so and have no recollection of it at all, even though it just happened, and you remember right before and right after. Just no concept of what happened during that time period. None. So it wasn't like a bad trip. It was like, one moment I started doing salvia, next moment I was off of salvia going, what happened? So, I wouldn't recommend it. Horse Mumbler might recommend it, but I wouldn't. Meow, 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 meow. Sounds like my phone needs to be charged. Oh, you want electricity? You want some electricity? Oh, no, it's reminding me of it does need to be charged, though. Reminding me of my 10 o'clock. What part of YouTube am I at again? The best part. So what we've done, Hector Pierce, we put together a topological map where instead of height equaling mountains, it equals quality. You are at the peak of Mount Everest, right here, right now. You'll never have this experience again, and you'll remember it for the rest of your life. You'll say, I, Hector Pierce, was there the day that host Eric changed everything. You feel it? Did you feel it go into you? That's the magic. Let's see here. Do you still do MDMA? I've never done. No, I have done. I'm sorry. No, I haven't done that in years. Ever since the time that I did it, that I actually got strong ecstasy, strong, good, clean ecstasy. And then when it was over the next day, I was twitchy, like I'd like twitch occasionally like that. Said, okay, I'm not ever doing that again. And I never did. I didn't like the way I didn't like the fact that it made me have this weird twitch the next day. It went away pretty quick, the twitchiness, but it scared me. So that's what made me stop doing it. And on all the times I did ecstasy before that, it either wasn't really ecstasy or was very weak ecstasy. It's hard to get real good ecstasy. You're a strange man. What do you usually talk about? Do you usually just ramble on about random disconnected stuff, or do you actually discuss topics? Depends on, things. We discuss a lot of different topics. The question is, how long does a given topic stay the topic? So to say that I'm rambling on a bit of disconnected stuff, if I officially segued between discussing, for example, this comment you're making here and say somebody else's comment in the chat, would it cease to be rambling on about disconnected stuff, and would it become then an organized procession of topics? Or does the failure to name this is the topic now, and frame it out, bookend it with some sort of conclusion, is that fundamentally the distinction between just rambling on about disconnected stuff or doing something podcasty like a series of sequential topics? Just a question that's kind of interesting definitional question. But the reality is, mostly I respond to people in the chat as I'm responding to you now. But the theme here today is the Ozymandias Conjecture. What is Ozymandias? Ozymandias is a poem about a famous old king who made a big statue of himself, and the statue now has fallen down, and there's very little of it left. And when people go by the statue in the desert, they go, wow, look at that. Who was that? And they read something. It says his name, Ozymandias, and nobody remembers who he is or has any idea what's going on with this guy. Just totally lost the history, except this little bit of a statue. And the whole point of the poem is that no matter how big you build your shit, it doesn't really last time. There's nothing really timeless. Well, my Ozymandias conjecture is that the Ozymandias rule no longer applies, because we have not just static records of things, but we have durational records of things, namely videos, audio recordings, things like that better preserve a legacy than any physical object ever could, including a book. So this is a better way to know who I was than a statue and a bunch of biographies. I do talk about 16 types. I am an ENTP. I talk about ENTPs. I talk about INFJs. Talk about cognitive functions. I talk about whatever people bring up in the chat. I am a person who can talk about many different topics, and some of them more successfully than others. But I hopefully can successfully be engaging about most any topic. So you believe, I don't believe in MBTI. No. I don't blame you for being skeptical of MBTI. What I believe in is a model of attentional manners. What I believe in is that people pay attention in different ways. So that knowing, the phenomenon of knowing, is different than the phenomenon of figuring out. The phenomenon of acting is different than the phenomenon of knowing. Okay? So cognitive functions, personality types, are really just a configuration towards the fundamental challenge of avoiding negative surprises. When I say I'm an ENTP, what that means is that in life, my basic fundamental approach to avoiding negative surprises is to anticipate all the possibilities. My second frame in dealing with the world, because I'm not just in the world, I'm of the world as well, is that I use consistency of language, that is to say, defensibility of the words I say, as a means of communicating to others and taking action in the world. And so that is to say, the answer I'm giving you here is carefully parsed to be defensible, to be difficult to challenge. It's difficult to challenge that people know. It's also difficult to challenge that people figure stuff out. And those are different processes. It's different to ask you, what year did Columbus discover America? You know the answer to that. Then can you tell me the square root of 7 times 4 divided by 1.243? You have to figure that out. So those are different kinds of attentional manners. And some people habitually know, and some people habitually parse as their fundamental, foremost way of attending. You could think of attention as the metaphysical equivalent to reaching for something. I reach for something with my right hand consistently, not my left, because I'm right dominant. Attentionally, my reach manifests as ideation first and foremost, talking same words. And that's modified by the fact that I value those that are logically consistent rather than those consistent with my feelings. So what's the difference between that and MBTI? Well, MBTI believes that the first 4 functions are the only functions a person uses. And socionics says that a person uses all 8 functions. Additionally, BB says that a system uses all 8 functions. And a lot of different people have ideated about this. What I did is sort of a meta-analysis. I went over what everybody had been saying, saw what stuff made sense, saw what stuff didn't make sense, and figured out what was missing. And what was missing was a simple model that says this. There are 4 fields. There's an external metaphysical field. That's where you and I are interacting right now. There's an internal metaphysical field. That's what's going on in our head when we're not sharing what we're thinking or feeling. There's a external physical field. That's where I put this cup of coffee. And there's an internal physical field. That's what makes me say ow. That's where I say ow, you could say. There are no other fields for attention. Now, this is pretty difficult observation to dispute, right? It's not backed up by anything. I'm not saying here's the proof of it. It's observationally so. Well, the difference between external and internal metaphysical field is this. If I think a sentence but don't say it out loud, I've kept it on the internal metaphysical field. If I say it out loud, I've put it on the external metaphysical field. That's the difference. Any remedy to control anger? Because I react out too easily. I'm an introvert when quiet, Suddenly in anger, I blast out and everything. I'm probably not the best person to ask advice for controlling anger. It's something I'm working on too. I'm rather reactive. If somebody says, me, I'll be like, no, fuck it is. You know, I'm working on it. I'm working on it too. So, you know, I tell you what, we'll be workout buddies from afar, okay? Love amazing facts. Let's do the workout buddy fist bump. Love amazing facts. We're going to do a better job of controlling our anger. Fist bump. There's a lot of magic in that fist bump. So the only difference between internal and external is the external is putting information out there. I mean, the difference between speaking and not speaking is what you'd call a clear, bright line in debate. In other words, it's a binary distinction. It's not suspect at all. There are kinds of distinctions that are suspect, but that clearly isn't one of them. So, you know, when making one of these streams, I have to make decisions the whole time. I read a lot of things and I respond to some of them. I have to make a choice as to which ones I want to respond to, and I have to factor in a lot of different factors. So, for example, Hector Pierce, one factor is right now I'm trying to think about whether or not you're worth affording much attention to. The reason is not because you're challenging me. I was looking forward to talking with you about this until you said highly suspect. Because the fact is, if you were to evaluate what I'm saying here as a meaningful distinction or not a meaningful distinction, if you were to evaluate that accurately or fairly, you would agree that there's nothing remotely suspect about it. It is a real distinction, clear cut, clear, bright line. So it makes me, because the thing is, there are plenty of things that aren't like that. You could use that argument does work on a lot of things. The fact that you use it here suggests to me you're using it habitually and you think it because it often does work, but you're not actually making a determination about whether something's suspect. It's just sort of a positioning thing. That's what makes me worried. No. External and internal don't correlate with objective and subjective. I'm talking about the fields. The subject engages with the fields in both objective and subjective ways. So if I keep my objectively calculated and correct position on this to myself, I'm keeping my objective word objects on the internal field. If I share them with you, I'm putting my objective word objects on the external field. Inherently, the external metaphysical field is populated by objective word objects. Now, not all those word objects are making objective claims. So some of those word objects say, I'm sad. That's a subjective claim. It's a subjective claim because the thing I'm referring to can only be accessed by the subject, namely my emotions. I might also make a statement such as, I am currently responding to Hector Pierce. That is an objective claim because it is something that can be descriptively verified. In other words, it's a descriptive claim about something that can be verified because it's about a matter that's on the external plane. Now, the other way to think about objective and subjective is about the approach to the question by the person doing the cognition. So if I'm approaching the question from a subjective frame, that would mean I'm saying all this because I want my position to be right. And even though you're making more sense, I'm stubborn and holding on to my position. If I were using a disinterested claim, I would say, I'm saying all this because I don't care what's right or wrong. And so as a consequence, I've over time figured out what's right. So you say, I guess it makes more sense to reference back to the functions. I would understand the extroverted functions as analytical and the introverted functions as synthetic, and we're getting closer to the truth. Okay, well, here's how I put it. I think it makes the most sense and means the most. So there are 4 kinds of functions. There are action functions, that's SE and NE. NE puts data on the external metaphysical field. That's what I'm doing right now. SE puts data on the physical field. That's what I'm doing right now. Those are the 2 action functions. Knowledge functions are introverted intuition and introverted sensing. Introverted sensing is knowing about the internal physical field. And introverted intuition is knowing about the external metaphysical field foremost. But the thing is, the knowledge functions are more cross-field than other functions. I don't want to get too complicated about it because I want to make sure that you see that what I'm saying is not convoluted, complicated, or metaphorical. I'm saying stuff that's actually concrete. Okay. So we know from computers how information flows. It flows like this: putting information when I enter stuff into a form, getting information when I Google stuff, receiving information when I get an ad unbidden near me, and interfacing. What I'm doing right now, I'm not doing anything to the field. I'm doing something on the field. So those are the 4 kinds of functions we see when we have already modeled what it's like when agents interact with one another on a metaphysical field, namely this. And within this metaphysical field, we have also modeled what it looks like when people model interaction on the physical field. In other words, you can actually see me and hear me. It's not just words, right? So we're getting close to understanding how agents interact with fields by moving information or information vectors in different relationships with information. What I'm saying, therefore, is let's take this proven concept of put, get, receive, interface, and apply it to our functions and see if it works. And sure enough, it does. It works perfectly. TI and FI are the get functions. TI is most literally a get function in the sense that when I'm using introverted thinking, I'm probably asking you questions to pin you down on what you mean to test to see if you're consistent. When I'm using FI, I'm asking sort of feelings questions that may or may not be put into words. I'm weakest in my understanding of FI because I'm FI polar. When I'm putting information on the external field, I'm using NE. When I'm putting information on the external field, I'm using SE. When I'm interfacing with you right now, like this, trying to manage both the social aspects of it and the explanatory aspects of it, it's kind of a combination of FE and TE. Or TI, it's more FETI. You and I seem to actually be talking. Sometimes people come in here and they are married to the idea of opposing me no matter what I say, in which case it becomes an FE battle. We're having a positioning battle to see who can sound more like an expert, you know. But I feel like I'm actually having a conversation with you. And I appreciate the fact that you're able to do that because not everybody is. So what I'm saying is that when we look at the functions like that, the interface functions are TE and FE. What does it mean to have an interface function? It means you need a specific function to deal with dynamic systems. All the other 3 functions deal with static systems. So I have to continue to manage the FE considerations here, which is to say, if you go right now, if you were to type in here, yeah, fuck off, you're full of shit. Well, that would change the FE dynamics of this completely. So I would cease to be making an effort then at that point to work with you. I would instead be making an effort to just say, okay, fuck this guy. Aren't all cognitive functions performed by the brain? Yes. Yet the way in which people interact with information is different. Yes. Is it an ontological material distinction or processing difference? It's configural. Okay. So the thing is, there's an inherent definitional relationship between these functions and what they're doing. In other words, If I am constantly making new things, then I am spending proportionally less time organizing the things I've made. That's the situation I'm in. I've got a Google Docs thing that has shit tons of stuff in there that I don't even remember, that's partially finished. It's good ideas that I got 17 pages into and stopped. And it's full of shit like that because I'm spending so little time organizing that which I create. Now, people tend to talk about life as though there weren't this inherent proportionality thing going on. They say, you need to be more conscientious and organize your stuff better, Eric. Okay, so you're telling me be less creative and make fewer things. Because there's a trade-off, right? But people don't think about it or talk about it that way. So that's what I mean by it's configural. The reason I'm not conscientious is because I'm creative as a dominant function. The reason I'm not stubborn about being wrong is because I'm using a disinterested calculus as a tool function, because an interested calculus is my blind spot. And what that means is there's a finite number of hours in the day, and we can attend to problems in a finite number of ways. So we reflexively use those that work well together naturally, and we reflexively avoid those that don't work well with the ones that we prefer or habitually use. So, for example, because I'm always talking and explaining that this is logically this way, justified, I don't like to have to explain how it's useful. So if you were to say, well, how is this useful anyway? I can explain it, but even then, that explanation of use is going to be one that says it gives you a powerful tool, frame of reference to understand people better, including yourself. That's about as much as I would say about it. And if you want me to find practical or concrete uses, I'd say, no, I don't care about that. I don't want to do that. That's stupid. Because I countervalue the other kind of the other kind of thinking, namely problem solving, goal attainment, and stuff like that, and how to get from point A to Z in the most efficient way, because it interferes with my creativity and my word-based consistency frame. So it's when you understand a human personality is simply the natural consequence of reflexively preferring one pair as an ego. Sure, there is a trade-off between creativity and efficiency. And the thing is this. Because extroverted intuition is native to the external metaphysical field, whatever that means. You want to say that's kind of metaphorical, Eric? Fine, fair enough. Then it can be efficient enough, I suppose, in terms of getting places with language. But even then, it's still brute force. I don't use introverted intuition, which says what the best answer is first. So let's take the caption contest from last night, for example. I had this picture I took on the street of somebody throwing a big stuffed animal there, and it was lying in a weird position. I took a picture of it. And Zandy captioned it. So the first thing she said was INFP after one chore. I was like, bingo. And that was, in fact, the winner of the caption contest for that. And that was fantastic. The NE approach is to say, okay, well, let's write down 50 of these and pick the best one. So, yes, creativity is contraindicative of efficiency. Unless you're saying creativity is picking the best one right away. Now, but see, that's not really creativity. That's intuition. So we call extroverted intuition, but it's really called that because it relies on introverted intuition to work off of. Introverted intuition is real intuition. It's a thing that makes Sherlock Holmes go, these disparate clues. Aha! I know who the culprit is. That's introverted intuition. Introverted intuition is INFP after one chore. That's introverted intuition. Zandy killed it additionally with the other picture that she captioned, which has this weird picture of like a wizard, guy dressed up as a wizard, being pulled on a board by a donkey down a cobblestone street. And she captioned that one, when Gandalf visits Mexico. Like, bam, NI tool. That is bam, right? She didn't have a lot of attempts, and one of them worked well. She had one attempt, and it was perfect. So, yes, creativity, the way that I have creativity, definitely runs afoul of efficiency. And in fact, it runs most afoul of efficiency when you try to apply it in the physical world. So the reason I can't fix shit, for example, this is what happens. This is when creativity gets applied to the physical world. I don't remember how many months ago it was that I decided I had a great idea. What I was going to do is I was going to change that one pickup. I'm just going to change one of those pickups. You know, I got this cool pickup at a garage sale. I want to switch out one of these humbuckers for this other pickup. I managed to take it apart. Creative idea, you know. Aren't action functions to some extent dealing with dynamic systems since they change the fields they operate upon, hence making them dynamic, or failing to make some distinction? Well, action's always your turn. The thing about a static system is it's turn-based in that regard. Interface it's our turn. So if you're sitting here in the room talking to me, we can interrupt each other and stuff. We can convey information when we're not saying words. Tells the other person that I am not happy with what they said, you know? It's a real-time exchange, mutual exchange of information. So you have to be, in order to deal with that kind of thing, both receptive to information and reflexively expressive of information. And what that means is that you generally don't actually parse the parsable information right away. So INFJs will respond to you usually appropriately before they understand what you're saying. Yes, words are what you'd call a turn-based kind of communication. So words are static in the sense that I can take 5 seconds to say the sentence or 10 seconds to say the sentence, and it still says the same thing. In contrast, facial expressions and body language are real-time forms of communication, which is to say, if I go like this, it means one thing. But if I go like this, it means something else. Same facial expression, but it's nobody would interpret the super slow mo version of that as meaning something very clear. They'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you acting so weird? You know, the thing is, yes, so absolutely. There are two kinds of communication. There's two kinds of engagement with the world. We can engage with things that are static and stay the same. So I can go back and reference what you asked here if I forget what you said, because it's not going to change. It's still right there. Those words are there. Eric, is it possible to describe functions in terms of object versus subjects purveying and meaning? What I would say is that to some extent, all functions, I mean, look, if you want to talk about object and subject and functions, I got to go. Fuck. I got to work at 10. I forgot. Almost forgot. It's 9:59. I got to split right now. This is a really good cognitive function conversation, you guys. I value both of you a lot in the way you're talking to me about this. Hector and sorry, I misjudged you at first. This is the kind of conversation where I want to have about cognitive functions. They're asking real questions and giving them real answers, and they're considering the answers as possibly valuable. That I greatly appreciate. Thank you for that. Goodbye, everybody. Got to go. We're going to be late to work.